there have been a lot of developments in recent weeks, and I thought it was time to take a status report of what's been happening, starting off with a potential rematch between Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez. And I mean, this just does not look good for the UFC, even if you try and look at it from that perspective of a promotion, a for profit promotion that is trying to make as many ticket sales as they can. This just is not the fight to make. I think it's clear to say, I think it's clear and obvious to say that Volkanovski is the A side in this matchup and Yair Rodriguez is the B side. They're trying to book this fight to headline a Mexican event, but Yair Rodriguez is just not the star not the star that we think or that the UFC thinks he is. That would make sense for him to headline an event in Mexico, especially given he's only recently lost to Volkanovski himself in a very, very dominant fashion. The UFC are making a big mistake because instead of booking Rodriguez against Volkanovski, the correct move would have been to book him against Diego Lopez, given the beef that they had at that last at the press conference where Volk and Diego Lopez fought for the event where Volk and Lopez fought. That would have done really well. That would have probably done better in terms of ticket sales on this one. I don't know who decided to book this event, but they're not thinking straight. This is not the fight to make. Yair Rodriguez got dominated in that first fight, and he's just not done anything to earn this rematch. I mean, he beat Pitbull. I mean, no one really knows. I mean, if casual fans don't really know, what Pitbull is all about, and he didn't really get by him in any kind of emphatic fashion. It was just it was a decision victory, and there weren't really any memorable moments from that fight, at least from what I can remember. Um, and Pitbull was obviously unranked. He was coming in unranked, and now he gets the title shot over Movsar Evloev. I mean, it's just you can make the argument that okay, Evloev is a boring fighter. He's just a crotch sniffer. These Daggies are boring. He's not Dagestani, but you get the point. Everyone's a Daggy from that part of the world. But even from the perspective, like I've just said earlier, I want to emphasize from the perspective of even selling tickets, this is not the fight to make. Volkanovski versus Evloev, Makachev versus JDM. I think Guru was talking about this on the Australian card. That is how you sell an event. And then make Rodriguez versus Lopez. That beef will sell the tickets. The UFC is just making a big mistake. They think they have to go to Mexico. If you don't have the talent to go to Mexico, don't go to Mexico. It's as simple as that. Go to places where you know you have the talent and the star power to sell to sell a big event, and an event that will be received well by casual and hardcore fans. This is not it. I do want to say though, I mean, credit to Volkanovski. He is a G. He was he was looking for that Movsar Evloev matchup. So credit to him for doing that. Obviously, he's going to do what the UFC tells him to do and whatever they propose to him, which very well, which may well just be this rematch. I do want to say one more thing as well. The legacy of Volkanovski is on the line. He's not going to gain anything from this rematch. If anything, he might he might suffer from another kind of fluky. Well, not fluky. Not that the previous two knockouts that he suffered from have been fluky, but he might suffer from a fluky knockout where you might, Rodriguez might head kick him or something out of nowhere and knock out Volkanovski. And now we've just essentially wasted the kind of end of Volkanovski's career to a guy who isn't really gonna be a dominant champ or a long-lasting champ. Whereas Evloev, you know, very may well be, right? At least if you look at it comparatively. I think this is a huge mistake. Volk's legacy is on the line. Imagine if he fought Evloev, beat Evloev. He could very well just retire after that, and it would be a great career for Volkanovski. Or if Evloev wins, you've probably got a guy who will be a champion in that division for some time to come. This is not the move to make at all by any metric, any angle, no matter which way you spin it. It's just a bad decision by the UFC, but they've been doing a lot of that in recent memory. And we're going to get on to some of the other stories I've been developing as well. So, like I've said, they're booking Pico versus Movsar Evloev. So it was announced, I mean, it was circulating the media, I think a couple of months ago or a month ago. And I think Evloev shut it down. But I think it's come out again, and I think it will take place in Abu Dhabi on July 26th, which is the same card where Whitaker and RDR will be fighting as well. Listen, Evloev came out with a series of tweets saying, he's going to take on whoever they put in front of him, and that if you're the best in the world, that's what you have to do. And credit to Evloev, he's taken it on the chin, and he's going to go out there against Pico and do what he has to do against Pico. I mean, if he wins, no one's really going to no one's going to give him the credit that he deserves because no one even knows who Pico is. I mean, I don't even know who Pico is. I'm a casual. I have no idea who Pico is. I'm going to have to do some research on this guy. He's obviously a decent fighter. I think I've seen a couple of clips. He's clearly good enough to come into the UFC or get signed by the UFC. Although if you look at the signing habits of the UFC, and given we got Bo Nickel, who's recently been exposed, I don't know if the UFC headhunters really know what they're doing in terms of signing talent. I mean, we had Chandler. Look where Chandler is. I think the UFC needs a massive overhaul. I think that might be a separate point that I'm going to make now. The UFC needs a massive overhaul in terms of who they're bringing into They tried to bring in Pitbull. They tried to bring. Fair enough, Chandler had exciting fights. I'll give him that. But Pitbull, you had Bo Nickel. You put your whole PR machine into building these guys. Not Pitbull, but Bo Nickel. And to what ends? To what end? To what result? The UFC needs an overhaul in terms of who they've got as part of their headhunting team and their scouting team, because they're not doing a good job. They don't know what they're looking. They don't know who to look for when it comes to signing actual talent. I mean, there was a story. I think there was some kickboxer who was like, I think, I can't remember in which promotion of kickboxing. I'm not sure which kickboxing promotion he was a part of, but they refused to sign him because he was asking for a little bit too much. Then they're going to put all that PR money behind Bo Nickel, and look what's happened to Bo Nickel. It's ridiculous. That might be a separate video altogether. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but credit to Movsar Evloev. And if Pico wins, I guess they're going to give Pico a title shot. Probably. Moving on. I did want to talk about this a little bit. There's been a lot. There's been a lot said on the side of Topuria and Makhachev in this feud, and all this has confirmed for me is that UFC fighters are some of the dumbest people you'll ever meet. Are some of the dumbest people walking around. I've known this for a while. I think again, this is this warrants a whole separate analysis and video on its own. But let's take a look at some of the stuff Topuria has been saying. This absolute midget. First point, the difference between you and me is that I am a man and you are a coward. Ilio Apturo says. And I'm assuming that's referring to Makhachev not going up to 170 and not wanting to fight Topuria. But Topuria, how stupid can you be? We can make the same argument against you not fighting Lopez, not fighting Evloev, not fighting Gene Silva's coming up. I think, whoever, assuming they do a matchup such as, I think Guru was mentioning this. If you do a Gene Silva and Leroy Murphy matchup, the winner of that is the next contender pretty much. I mean, there are like 3-4 contenders right there, and you run away from all of them. You beat Volk, who's coming off of a KO already. Then you beat Holloway. By KO, it's impressive, but Holloway has his fair share of losses anyway. You talk like you... If you knew nothing about the sport and you just looked at what was being said, you would think Makachev has 0 defenses on his resume and Topuria has like 50. Like, you would genuinely think, if I didn't know anything about the sport, that's what I would go away thinking. But the opposite is true. You got Makachev with a record in title defenses in the lightweight division, and you got Topuria with 1 defense. Didn't Volkanovski have like 4 or 5? He had like 3 or 4 before he went up to lightweight. I mean, and then Topuria goes on and says, "I speak and fight, you talk and hide." You're hiding. You hid from Evloev, bro. The decisionator. Evloev is a decisionator. I mean, he talked about how like, oh, Evloev's boring. He doesn't know how to. He doesn't get finishes. Yeah, so you're scared of the guy who doesn't get finishes. It makes you look worse. Imagine you had beat Lopez, then you beat, say you fought Evloev and Lopez, and you beat both of them, you knocked them both out, and then you went, oh, imagine the hype you would have then. But clearly, someone's a little insecure that they might not get that far. Someone's a bit worried they might get decisionated by Evloev. And then I think Ilya Topuria goes on and calls Makachev a hypocrite for saying he didn't want to give the smaller guy a chance, while Makachev is going up as the smaller guy to fight JDM. I mean, Topuria has like probably 2 functioning brain cells. Makachev doesn't want to fight the smaller guy again. That's the whole point, because he gave the smaller guy a chance twice. Granted, it was the same smaller guy, but he gave the smaller guys a chance twice. Like that's the fact. That's the fact of the matter. So he has to give you a chance as well. JDM hasn't given a smaller guy a chance at all, and Makachev actually has the defenses in his resume to warrant moving up. It's a totally different situation. I mean, Topuria is I swear Topuria, for how talented he is, he's one of the stupidest fighters I've ever seen in the UFC. But to be fair, that's typical of UFC fighters. They're not exactly known for their intelligence, which makes sense. They get hit in the head for a living, so I'm not surprised. But it's just like, can you do a little bit of critical thinking to see how this could, how this could be, reversed onto you? In fact, it applies to you more than it does Makachev. But yeah, like I said, UFC fighters, not exactly the sharpest tools in the shed. Let's move on to John Jones. I don't know. I mean, this is I don't know what's happening in the UFC anymore. Look, John Jones, you don't want to fight, don't fight. The problem is Aspinall's career is now being stalled. I think it's been at least over a year since Aspinall has last fought, and that fight was an interim defense. It was an interim title defense. Like, what's happening? We're losing out. If you're the UFC, as the promotion, as the promoter, you're losing out on a massive market in the UK, and you're not maximizing the star value that Aspinall has by not letting him unify the belt in favor of trying to run defense for someone like John Jones, who's just a massive liability. I mean, he's allegedly been committing these, crimes and what have you, and he's just not good for the branding of the UFC. Tom Aspinall isn't that guy, and Tom Aspinall still has a lot of potential to grow into a star, but the UFC doesn't want to go that route apparently. Look, if John Jones doesn't want to fight, it's fine. Don't fight. You've done a lot in the sport. I understand you're older, you're up in age, you want to kind of just call it quits. That's completely understandable. But now the UFC is stalling Aspinall's career. And I know a lot of people are blaming John Jones. It's not really John Jones' fault, though, is it? It's the UFC. The UFC can strip John Jones if they want to, but they're not. I don't know what it is with Dana White and John Jones, but maybe John Jones has a blackmail on Dana White. Who knows? Maybe he's got some, some tapes of Dana White that Dana White doesn't want released. Who knows what it is? But it's really the UFC that's responsible for essentially ruining and stalling the career of Tom Aspinall. And when you take into account how talented Aspinall is by looking at his recent fights and how well he's done. It really is a shame to see as a UFC fan, and myself, I'm a fan of Aspinall as well. It just sucks to see him not put that talent to good use. You know, I mean, it reminds me of that Zabit situation. I know, I get it, it's a bit different, but you know, he had Zabit in Magomed and he had, you know, some kind of pre-existing injuries, and so he stopped fighting. But you know, he had a reason to stop. Aspinall has no reason to stop fighting. He wants to fight. John Jones goes on to, I think, comment on some Instagram post talking about how he should shut his mouth and do as he's told, which is quite funny because I believe there was an event that John Jones ruined because his opponent had pulled out and John Jones didn't want to fight the short notice fit in. I can't remember who it was. Was it Chael Sonnen? I might be bugging on the name, but you didn't want to fight the short notice replacement. Like, that's John Jones for you. I mean, Makachev was happy to fight the short notice replacement in Volk, in the Moicano, and John Jones was scared of, what was it? Was it Chael Sonnen? I can't remember who it was. But why are you scared to fight a short notice replacement? It's just as short notice for them as it is for you. I mean, this is who John Jones is. You didn't do as you were told. You ruined a whole event. You ruined a whole event. And I think the UFC was, you know, going at him for a while after that because of that decision that he made to not fight that night. You didn't do as you're told. Now you're telling. I mean, that's a hypocrite. That's who a hypocrite is. Moving on, let's talk a bit about Chael Sonnen. Not many people are talking about this. There are a couple of people in this space that are talking about this. Chael Sonnen came out and basically gave an apology to the couple. Which he in the apology says he was you know, he was acting like a madman. Allegedly, he, I think, attacked this couple, and I think Brendan Schaub came out saying the guy was assaulting his wife or something. This is why it's so dangerous. Just come out and act like you have all the data when an event has just happened. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if whoever was involved, you know, may have had, you know, a difficult time after that, given the, you know, the bad. I don't know if the names at that time were, you know, were even known, but it's just a risky thing to do, to come out with these bold claims when they clearly weren't even true. So Chael Sonnen allegedly attacked this couple unprovoked, and he's basically given this apology. And you know, it's interesting as to why he's giving this, apology now. It may be due to some kind of lawsuit that he's being faced with. Probably, if this is in fact true, it's probably why he's coming out with this apology. It's probably a stipulation, the result of whatever lawsuit he's facing. But yeah, I mean, people give John Jones all that shtick about, you know, the stuff that he got up to, and it's warranted. But what about this? You know, allegedly attacking a couple that just, apparently, according to him, they were just walking to the hotel room. And that's insane. I believe there's a police report as well. I think MMA Joey covered this. Don't quote me on this one, but I think there was a police report where even Chael Sonnen's wife had a bloody lip. I mean, there are question marks as to how she got that bloody lip. I'm not saying anything right now, but I thought that was really, really interesting. And yeah, one last point that I want to make about the UFC, and it's more so about this, you know, the overall state of the sport. We're suffering from just lackluster events. You know, the events are a cornerstone to the sport. You have to put on big events if you want to draw eyes to the sport. But it just seems like, in recent memory anyway, we've had such poor quality events being put on. We had Muhammad versus Della Maddalena, and Burns versus Morales was on that card, but then it got moved to headliner fight night. This headliner, Burns versus Morales, was probably the only fight that was worth watching on this card. I mean, in the Muhammad versus Della Maddalena card, it was really just the headliner that was worth watching. The Benoit Saint Denis fight against Yoel Alvarez fell through, and Kyle filled in on short notice. But the win doesn't really mean much. I mean, you have Dana White running around trying to do boxing. Apparently, Turkey Al Sheikh, I don't know how you say his name, has come out and said Dana White won't be promoting that fight. Which, thank God, I can't believe it took Turkey Al Sheikh to save the UFC. I mean, Dana White's just he's putting his hand in too many pies. He's putting his meaty hands in too many pies. He's trying to do this power slap thing. He's trying to do, you know, he tried to do the boxing thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but boxing was actually Dana White's first combat combat sport passion. I believe he tried to get into boxing first initially, if I'm not wrong. So it's like his first love in a way, but it's I believe it's detracting from the UFC. They need to replace Dana White ASAP. I don't think we need Dana White to be the head of the UFC. I reckon you get someone who's already got a bit of a name within the kind of social media sphere, preferably within the sport as well, within the UFC, within MMA, and you make them the promoter. Even just like even some of the kind of amenities that we have leading up to the fights, like the press conferences, they're so lackluster. They're like 10 minutes long. We have the same boring questions asked over and over again. I feel like there needs to be a memo sent around to the media saying, "Listen, if you're gonna come, if you ask a boring question, you're gonna be banned from from asking questions ever again." Can we stop asking things like, "Oh, how do you think you're gonna do in this fight?" They're obviously gonna say they're gonna win the fight. They're not gonna say they're gonna lose. We have Holloway being asked what do you think's gonna happen. We'll find out Saturday night, baby. We'll find out Saturday night. And that's all we hear from these fighters. And there's no insightful questions being asked to them. Occasionally there is, but they're too few and far between. And something needs to change. That's it for now. I'm gonna leave my little status report there. I'm gonna conclude. Let me know what you guys think of what I've covered so far. I'm tired, it's late, and I'll speak to you next time.